And ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to be with you. This is our last clip in Israel. We've been here just about a week, and our last segment is being filmed right now, the city of Joppa in Israel. As we conclude our filming this week, I'd like to share some signs of the times. That's the name of this clip, and I hope that you'll be blessed with what we have to say. You know, this whole thing about God, He has a relationship with us. And I want to go back to the beginning for just a moment. Creation, that when we read chapter 1 of Genesis, we know that there's 6 days of creation. Could there be some kind of a gap between verse 1 and verse 2? Perhaps, but we know at verse 2 on, we see the 6 literal days of creation for sure. I'd like to make mention of if you will, a concept of God's love for His people in some kind of a relationship that we see. When you read about the week of creation, every day except one, it says, and that it was very good. So day 1, and it was very good. Day 2, He does not say, and it was very good. Day 1 is a Sunday, day 2 is a Monday, and day 3, which is a Tuesday, He says it twice, and that it was very good. And then He goes for the other days, and of course day 6, that it was very good. Is there a concept in here? There is. Now I'd like to ask you, if you're a Christian, what day do most Christians get married on? Perhaps, usually Saturday, maybe some Friday nights. Usually that's when Christians get married. When do Orthodox Jews get married? They usually get married on Tuesday. Why is it that Orthodox Jews generally get married on Tuesday? In fact, if you ask them, a couple that are getting married, they might not know the answer to that. However, their rabbi probably would. And the reason that the Orthodox Jews generally get married on Tuesday is because, number one, it's the 3rd day, and number 2, it's because He says that it was good, good on twice in that day. That's in verse 9 through 13 in Genesis chapter 1. So we see right there is a marker on day 3. Why did God put a marker on day 3? Isn't that kind of strange? Now when you go to Jesus in the story at the marriage at Cana, you notice that first verse in Matthew, it says, and on the 3rd day. Even in Jesus' day, I could tell you, people got married on a Tuesday, on the 3rd day. And you remember when Jesus was lost and he got separated from His mom and dad. They probably spent the better of a day and a half trying to find Him. And it says, and on the 3rd day, they found Him in the temple. You remember that scripture in 2 Peter, it says, a day unto the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years unto a day. Is it conceivably possible it's a picture of Jesus in the temple on the 3rd day? In other words, after 2,000 years, after the end of the 2,000 years is the beginning of the 3rd day, and the temple is here with Jesus ruling planet Earth. Is it a type and shadow of that? Well, I do believe it is. So this thing about marriage and relationship is, we find it all the way back to chapter 1. The next area I would like to go to is Genesis chapter 14. This is approximately 2,000 years later with the story of Abraham, where he comes into the area where the Jebusites are, and he has just had a battle among 4 or 5 different kings. He wins the battle, and he comes into the area known as Salem. You know, Jerusalem was called Salem before it was called Jerusalem. And later when it became Jerusalem, the word Jebusite is inserted in there. In Salem, you can see Salem at the end of the word of Jerusalem. I like to often remind people that USA is in the middle of the word Jerusalem as well. Perhaps there's a message in there. In chapter 14, verse 18 through 20, we see this encounter with a mystery man here. And the mystery man is Melchizedek. Now, we've all heard of Melchizedek, but I'd like to share some thoughts with you about his name and the meaning of his name. I say very strange and unusual because did you know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first communion in the Bible? If you were to ask most the question to most people, where was the first communion? They'd say the Last Supper. That's not the right answer. It's 2,000 years earlier, approximately, in this verse in here, verse 18 through 20. It says, "And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God, and he blessed him," referring to Abraham, "and he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and he gave him tithes of all." Isn't that amazing? This is the first communion, and Abraham is paying his tithes, and of course the law has not even been invented yet. Is that a type and shadow of something? I believe that it is. So I would like you to know, my personal opinion is this encounter, the area where Abraham meets Melchizedek, is in the area that you know is the city of David, the center of the earth. Is that important? I believe it is. Now, a little bit more about Melchizedek. Some scholars are of the opinion that Melchizedek is, as an example, the rabbis, the traditional rabbis in Israel believe this is Shem, one of the sons of Noah. I don't share that view personally. I personally believe Melchizedek is none other than the Lord Jesus Christ, Messiah, pre-incarnate. You might say, well, Brother Mike, how on earth do you come up with something like that? Well, if you go into the book of Hebrews chapter 7, I believe verse 1 through 4, you'll find out the strange and unusual Melchizedek in the New Testament. It gives us some additional information. He had no genealogy. He had no mother, and he had no father. Is that a type and shadow of something? I believe that it is. A little bit more about this area. You know, a couple days ago we filmed from the city of David, and I had mentioned that this is where creation took place. This is the footstool of the Lord Jesus Christ, who created the earth, as it says in the New Testament. The earth is his footstool, and his footstool is at the city of David. It all started there. It all started there with the Garden of Eden. It all started with the Tree of Life in the city of David at the Milo. And that's where Jesus will rule the earth from, in the fourth temple in the future. I believe in this generation that will come about. So I'd like to say some other things here about this area. When God had created Adam, I believe this was in the city of David at the Milo as well, the center of the earth, where the Tree of Life was. So Jerusalem was in fact the Garden of Eden. I want everybody to get that. That's true. And if you go to Ezekiel chapter 28, where it talks about the king of Tyre, which is a type and shadow of Satan, if you will, it mentioned that he was a covering cherub. He was in Eden, and this is a place that he would go up and down from, if you would. In other words, this is the holy mountain of God. Okay, so Mount Zion, the Milo there at the city of David, this is where it all happened. This is where God created Adam 6,000 years ago. This is where Jesus Christ took the clay and fashioned it, and the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, breathed life into Adam. There, the Garden of Eden, in Jerusalem, 6,000 years ago. You remember that story with Jesus where he heals the blind man? I believe I'm in John chapter around 8 or 9 or 10 in there. It actually goes on for 2 different chapters where there's the blind man. And there's a clue in the story, and it says that this is, number 1, it's during the Feast of the Dedication, which is Hanukkah to us. So we know it's probably the 2nd or 3rd week of December. We know it's a Jewish feast. It's not one of the 7 feasts that God had instituted, but it is one that Jesus Christ partook of during his time as a Jew that he lived here. And during this time, during the time of Jesus, he finds this blind man, and it says it's on the porch of Solomon. Why does it say, it's a clue in the story, why does it say it's on the porch of Solomon? Because that's where Solomon's temple stood 1,000 years before Christ. That's the place where, ladies and gentlemen, tighten your seatbelt. That's the place where God created Adam, where Jesus Christ created Adam, right there. Now, how do I know that? Because there's another clue in the story. This is the only one where he heals the blind man, and he takes the clay and he spits in it. He makes spittle of it, and he makes clay and he puts the clay in his eyes. In other words, he anoints him with clay in the eyes on the feast of the dedication, on the feast of lights. He's been blind all of his life, and now on this day he shall see. Is this a type and shadow? It is. And when Jesus Christ returns, the very next Hanukkah, it will be the greatest celebration of the Feast of Lights, the Feast of the Dedication, Hanukkah, ever in history, because Israel's eyes will be opened on that day. Now, I'd like to say something else about this area. You remember the time Adam and Eve had sinned, and after the sin, they were let out of the garden. And as they went east of Eden, I'm in the first couple chapters of Genesis, and as they're let out, there's two angels, one with a flaming sword in its hand as they're leaving the garden. And the angel with the sword, a flaming sword in his hand, is protecting the tree of life. Who is he protecting the tree of life from? From Satan, Ha-Satan. So where is it that Adam and Eve leave the garden? In other words, where is the location of the two angels? Well, I know where that was, and I know who the two angels are, and I'm going to share that story with you. It's actually Michael and Gabriel. It's always Michael and Gabriel. So you have two angels dressed in white, one with a flaming sword, protecting the tree of life. Where is that spot? It's in Bethany, the house of poverty. It's the place where Jesus lived when he was in the Jerusalem area. It's the very place where Lazarus was raised from the dead in Bethany. You know, Bethany is in fact on the Mount of Olives. It's partway down the southeast side of the Mount of Olives. So the tree of life originally was in Jerusalem at the house of David where the temple originally was. It's the same place where Abraham was going to slay Isaac 2,000 years before Christ. And so now these two angels are there. Adam and Eve leave the garden, and now we go off into prophetic history. And I want to fast forward 4,000 years later to the time of Jesus Christ, and Jesus is about to be taken up in the cloud. And I'm in the New Testament now. It's on that day where doubting Thomas puts his hand in Jesus' side. And after that, as you know, they were let out, and I believe it's in the last chapter. The only place you'll find this in the Bible, I believe, is last chapter of Luke. And it says they're there at, where are they? They're at Bethany. I think that's the only place it mentions, it's Bethany. And there's a cloud that comes down, and the Bible tells us in the book of Acts, in the beginning of Acts, it says that while they were there were two angels dressed in white as Jesus was taken up into the cloud. And I'm kind of paraphrasing this, and the two angels dressed in white that just appeared before them, who are they? None other than Michael and Gabriel. And as they're watching Jesus go up in a cloud, not to come back until your future, by the way, they said, this same Jesus, if you've seen him go, he's going to come back the same way. Meaning, Jesus Christ with the saints will return. Yes, it will be the Mount of Olives, but it will be to Bethany, the same place where Jesus had them get the donkey on Palm Sunday. In other words, the donkey started in Bethany, came up to the Mount of Olives, and then over to the temple Jesus went with the donkey, as you know. Now, there's several type and shadows that we see in the story, but I wanted to share that with you, and I hope that you learned something new there. Now, I want to go to another story in the Old Testament. I want to go back to Sodom and Gomorrah for just a moment. You remember there were three angels that appeared to Abraham as he and his wife were there camping at this area with their tent and their servants, and three show up, and one is the angel of the Lord. The one that's the angel of the Lord is none other than Jesus Christ Messiah, pre-incarnate. And would you like to know who the other two angels are? Michael and Gabriel. It's always Michael and Gabriel. So at the end of this encounter, the two angels go down to Sodom and Gomorrah, and you know the story well. There's a picture of the rapture in this story that I wanted to share with you. And as they go down there, they talk to Lot and his family. Most of his family, in-laws and outlaws, they don't want to go along. His immediate family, his wife, a couple daughters, they do go for sure, at a minimum. And the angel says, I'm in Genesis chapter 19, verse 22. I want you to mark Genesis chapter 19, verse 22. And the reason that that is very important, because it says in there, haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou become thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. So verse 21 and 22, and he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city, for thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou become thither. So in plain English, let me explain what's saying. The angel is saying, hurry up, get ready, because the destruction can't happen until you're out of here. Okay? Is that a type and shadow of the rapture? It is. And they go where? They go up to Zoar. And that word Zoar is that they are escaping up. I want you to get the idea. They are going from down to up. It is a type and shadow rapture. In other words, the tribulation can't happen until you're out of here. That's really what I believe that this story is talking about. There are many other types and shadows that we see in the Bible of that. So I've got one more thing that I'd like to share with you today, and we will be back in just a moment. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll be sharing with you some videos that you can watch on YouTube. And I'd like to say, if you have children or young teenagers, I'd like the parents to watch it first before children do. In this particular segment, I'd like to say this is kind of our PG-13 segment. And again, this is for people that are 13 years old or older to watch these videos. I think there's a lot that you can learn from. I mentioned earlier, there's a lot going on. You really don't know what's happening. And you need to educate yourself what's going on in the world. So if you'll go to YouTube and watch this video by Pastor John Hagee, and it talks about the 4 blood moons, that we are right in the middle of that right now, as a matter of fact. And I hope you'll learn something new. This is another YouTube video that I would like you to look for. And there's a lot of things going on. You may not even know this, but there are certain areas of the world where it has rained blood in the last couple years. And if you put rain or blood or something along that line in, either Google that or go to YouTube, you will find some clips in there where this has actually taken place. I can tell you in Sri Lanka, this is back in 2011, 2012 timeframe, and there were a number of cities in India this happened, in Sri Lanka as well. The one in Sri Lanka, when it rained blood, it actually had DNA in there. I'm not making this up. I mean, this is something Hollywood could not come up with. How on earth could DNA live in rain coming down? And some of that water was analyzed very, very carefully, I want you to know. So you'll find that there. And also, I would like you to go to YouTube and watch this clip. This will show you what's going on, even in America and several areas of the world. If you go to Hosea chapter 4, verse 1, 2, 3, and 4, there was a time in Israel's history where God had brought a judgment on the land, and the fish and the birds were dying, and just a lot of strange and unusual judgments that God had brought on the land of Israel. You know, we're going through that now in the world. You need to learn a little bit on your own, because you're not going to get this at the local church, or perhaps at the local Bible school, maybe where you're going. Last but not least, if you insert, you can just go to Google if you'd like, and this is a clip that I did that's on the internet right now. You can just put it in Google, and if you put the words God, comma, the weather and remedial judgment dash Michael Smith, if you want to put them in small letters, that's fine, it'll work. It'll take you right to the YouTube video, or you can go to YouTube and insert this in there and you will get this. It may be, I believe this one's in 4 different segments, but if you have an opportunity to watch this, you will see how God has directly interfered with weather in America concerning days that the American government did some things that were not very kind to Israel. And I think you'll be amazed, to say the least. Well, this is Michael Smith reporting from the city of Joppa. We're ending our week's tour here filming. Again, I'd like to thank my cameraman, Ron Inch, who's taken the time to be with us. And to all of you, I hope you learned something this week in all of our films. May God richly bless you, and may God bless the state of Israel. And take care, and shalom, shalom. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to our last film that we did in Israel called Sign of the Times. We filmed this literally at the same place that Jonah got on the ship at Joppa, in the city square at Joppa. In fact, there's a beautiful statue of a whale there that we had an opportunity to take some nice pictures of as well. This is the second time since 1982 I've visited this location, and it's a very special place to me. I wanted to do this story about Sign of the Times because I believe it was 2011, we did a special DVD. It was called To Be or Not to Be, and the B was B-E-E, like a bumblebee, to be or not to be. And we had talked about some of these highly unusual things. So we did a story on this in 2011. This is the first year that some of this phenomena ever took place in the world, including the United States, and we documented that. I would like you to know that Prophecy in the News, which is a prophetic magazine and an institution, they actually spent a lot of time, money, and effort to track down the stories I'll be sharing about angels blowing trumpets in the sky, different cities throughout the world and different locations throughout the world, including right here in Texas, by the way. So why is this happening? So what I want to do is say that I believe I want to share an answer with you why this phenomenon's taken place. It's a warning to planet Earth. And, you know, Jesus was a Jew, and he's definitely into the Jewish calendar, into Jewish things. And every year at Passover, if you go to a well-established synagogue or temple, Jewish temple, you will find there is a man who blows a shofar, either a ram's horn or a larger shofar, which basically is almost like a trumpet, if you will, a ram's horn looking device, and he makes sounds with it. And there's actually four different sounds that he makes. And the first one is called Tekiah, and the next one's Shevarim, the third one is Teruah, and the last one is Tekiah Hagodalah, the long blast. And the last one that he blows with all of his might till he has no more breath within him. My personal opinion is these angels, and I do believe that they are angels, they're blowing trumpets in the atmosphere. And this has been going on since 2011. I know this sounds really crazy, But nevertheless, I want to present the facts to you. And I've been presenting the facts since 2011. But there must be something behind it. And I believe it's that third sound that the rabbi blows. It's a broken sound. It's a sound of alarm. In other words, wake up. That's what that sound is, specifically. And of those 4 different trumps that the rabbi blows, they're very distinctly different, all 4 of them. As I mentioned, the last one's a long blast. But the third one, the teruah, is the one that's broken. It has a broken sound. Wake up, wake up. And that's what these blasts in the atmosphere are from these angels blowing these trumpets, as unusual as it may seem. The other thing I want to talk about is, are you aware that there are some cities in the world where it rained blood? I mean blood, blood. Not something that looked like blood. It rained something that not only looked like blood, but it actually is living substances in it. And so why is that happening, Brother Mike? Well, you know, there's something that happened in Egypt when the water was turned into blood in the rivers, and in the water cups and things like that where the water turned to blood. In the book of Revelation, during the last 3 years of the tribulation, during those horrendous times, there's going to be times where rivers will turn to blood again. But why is this happening? And where is it happening? Hopefully I'll have some ideas that you can come to your own conclusion about, but I want you to know the facts. So if you will go to YouTube and plug in Blood Red Rain with a horizontal line, the unexplained files, and after that, if you'll go to another YouTube video, Blood Rain in India, and by the way, the first one happened in Sri Lanka, and if I'm not mistaken, it rained for 60 days. I think it was there, not India, but anyway, it rained for a very, very long period of time, both places, and people actually took samples of this rainwater, which had stained their clothes. And they found out that there's something in there that lives. So anyway, I hope you have an opportunity to look at that. And then if you'll go to Strange Sounds Heard Worldwide / this is one of them, Texas. This was actually filmed right here in Texas. And you will clearly hear the sound of these trumpets. It was actually Allen, Texas, believe it or not, where this took place. And then the last one here, trumpets are sounding around the world from the sky. So if you go to the YouTube and you look those up and listen to that, and as you see our film, Signs of the Times, maybe God is talking to us, and I hope maybe it's time that we realize it's time to wake up. Not only from a national point of view, but from a personal point of view. So I hope you learned something new today, and may the Lord bless you.